Okay, they told me it was a little janky. I'll have to go back and watch the replay to find out when did it stop, but hopefully you'll be able to catch the end of the story here. Okay, it says, let me go back just a little bit. It says, that's a good point. I was surprised at how deeply I slept that night considering I was laying in the bed of leaves. But Jack was the one who went off with Michelle that night, not Noah. Of course it was Noah who told me that. Maybe it's all a game he's playing, Jack says. He's torturing us and he's getting rid of us one by one. I stare at Jack. I don't care what he says. Noah would never do something like that. This man is my husband. That's ridiculous. Why would he do something like that? Jack lowers his voice. Because of us. Because he knows what's been going on between the two of us. Now, there is a chance that it could be Jack and he's just planning this in um, her head. He doesn't know. I think he does. I started to protest, but then I remember Lindsay said the same thing. She was certain he knew Jack and I were having an affair. Even so, he wouldn't do this. He just wouldn't. I've known Noah longer than you have, Claire. He folds his arm across his chest, and I think he's absolutely would do something like this under the right circumstances. BS. Jack looks at me for a moment as if he's debating something in his head. Our freshman year of college, Noah's father died. They were really close, and he was a mess. I know the story, he says, but you don't know what happened. He was walking around like a zombie for months. Anytime I asked him a question, he would bite my head off. I borrowed some water he was keeping in our mini fridge, and he walked up to me and punched me in my mouth. I gnawed my thumbnail. He punched you. I'm telling you, he was a mess, Jack shakes his head. And that's how he was acting at the beginning of this trip, Claire. I don't know what he's capable of right now. I like to think he couldn't do something like this, but I know I didn't do it. And I know it wasn't you. So this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. That sick feeling is almost overwhelming. I need to sit down. Jack, Noah's not a murderer. I know that for sure. I can't have this conversation with you anymore. I have to go. I turn on my heels and run back in the direction of the cabin before Jack can say another word. It turns out that I might have been wrong about being hunted, but it wasn't an animal hunting us. Dun, 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 dun. Chapter 34. Hey, Mika. Claire. Jack is extremely subdued during dinner, and so am I. I make us some sandwiches again. There's a good amount of food in the refrigerator, and the cupboards are packed with canned goods. It'll be more than get us through the week if it takes that long for somebody to find us. We could survive out here a month or longer if we have to. Heck, we could probably get through a year if we don't mind eating lots of canned beans, and if we have unlimited water. That said, I wanted to get out of here as soon as possible. I'm dreading even spending the night here. We don't want to finish all the fresh food, Noah comments as he chews on his sandwich. I mean, we want to leave something for when the guy who lives here comes back, right? Jack and I exchange looks. See, if he killed the guy out in the pickup truck, he wouldn't say something like that. Or would he? So I thought me and Claire could sleep in the bedroom tonight, Noah says. Do you mind sleeping on the couch, Jack? Yeah, fine, he mumbles. Are you okay with that? I figured the bed is bigger, so. I said it's fine, Jack snaps. When Noah goes silent, he stands up from his seat fast enough that the chair nearly falls over. I'm going for a walk. Now? I say, but it's dark out. It's perfectly safe out there, Jack says. I don't fail to notice his emphasis on the words out there. He grabs his sweatshirt and his rifle, then leaves the He grabs his sweatshirt and his rifle, then leaves the house without another word. I hear the echo of the door slamming behind us. Noah raises his eyebrows at me. What's with him? He's just, I hesitate. Even though I don't believe a word of what Jack said about Noah, I still don't want to tell him what I know about the dead guy in the pickup truck. I think he's worried nobody is looking for us. I'm sure somebody is looking for us, Noah says confidently. I bet tomorrow we'll be on our way home. Yeah, I swallow a big lump in my throat. If only that were true. I miss the kids. Me too. Noah fishes around in the pocket and pulls out his wallet. The last couple of days, whenever I start getting depressed, I looked at this picture. He slides the photo over to me. It's been creased, haven't been in his wallet for a long time. But the image is still crystal clear. It's a picture of me with Emma and Aiden and Emma at Emma's birthday party last year. She was missing both her front teeth, and Aiden is giving her bunny ears. They're both beaming with happiness. Looking at the photo makes me want to burst into tears. I can't believe you carry around this picture all the time, I manage. It doesn't escape me that there are tons of pictures of the kids without me. He chooses to carry the one that had me in it. Yeah, he says, it's my favorite. How could Jack have said Noah's responsible for all the bad things that have happened? He couldn't possibly be. All he wants is to get home to his family just like I do. Anyway, Noah tugs on his shirt collar. I'm going to try to clean my clothes tonight. I can't stay in these muddy things another day. I know, I say. There's also a shower I would love to get into, but I could seem but it couldn't seem to get the water to heat up. A cold shower a cold shower isn't terribly appealing. I'm going to wash mine so I can do yours too. You don't have to do that. I don't mind. Bro don't even wash his clothes at home. Now we stranded in the woods and now you want to wash my clothes? He smiled crookedly. Okay, then. We both head to the bedroom. As soon as the door is closed, I kick off my muddy sneakers, then peel off my sweaty, dirty socks. It feels so good to wiggle my toes and feel the fresh air. Then I peel off my dirty shorts and shirt, and I can't wait to get them clean. I look up and see that Noah has done the same. He's down to just boxer shorts. It's funny. Every single night for over a decade, we have undressed and gotten into bed together. But this feels different. When I look over at Noah's bare chest, I feel something for him that I haven't in a long time. Somehow I've forgotten how good he looked without a shirt on. And when I meet his eyes, I realize he's looking at me the same way. Hey, he says. Hey, I say back. He grins shyly at me. Have I ever told you how sexy you look in bra panties? I smile back. Not lately. Well, he comes around the bed to get closer to me. That is a huge overstep on my part, and I have to apologize. You're forgiven. He's standing less than half a foot away from me. Am I? Absolutely. He slowly lowers his lips onto mine, and my whole body tingles as the way it did when he first kissed me all those years ago. A second later, he's tugging me onto the bed. This trip has been one of the worst experiences of my life, but I think it may have saved my marriage, as long as we make it home alive. Hey Mika, to everyone just joining, we are reading One by One by Frida McFadden. We're almost done. We're about like 40 pages or so towards the end. So if you want to listen, you're free to listen. You can also catch your replays of part one, two, and now three on my YouTube live replays and my Instagram live replays. Or if you want to purchase the book and read it on your own, you can get it from my Amazon storefront. Chapter 35, Anonymous. After my first set of exams in college was over, I drove home. It was a 3-hour drive, but it was worth it. College wasn't like home. Even though my roommate and I got along, I needed time away. I wanted to be back in my own bedroom, not in that cramped dorm room on a stiff twin bed. Moreover, I wanted to see my dad. KILLED'd herself. My father finally cut back on his time on the road. He was shaken by the whole thing. He wasn't the same guy he used to be. He blamed himself and his guilt kept him home. It wasn't how I wanted it to happen, but it happened. He helped me lug my boxes from home to my dorm room, although I did a lot of lifting thanks to his bad back. And that's the last time I saw him. We talked on the phone once a week, but I was worried. He looked old when he said goodbye to me at the entrance of my dorm. He wasn't going to be around forever. He didn't eat right and barely exercise. For all I knew, he could have a heart attack before college. So that's why I drove out. I asked beforehand to make sure he wasn't going to be on the business trip, but I didn't mention I was coming. I figured we could watch a movie together on TV, maybe share a couple of beers. Yeah, I wasn't 21 yet, but he wasn't bothered by things like that. By the time I got to the house, it was dark. I hit traffic. And then when it started to get late, I stopped for fast food. A quarter pounder with cheese, french fries, a chocolate milkshake. My mom never let me have fast food, so I was having too much of it. I was still skinny as a rail though. I parked on the street since my father's car was in the driveway and I didn't want to block him. The house was dark too. Apparently he wasn't home, even though his car was there. Oh, thanks, Mika. It didn't matter. As long as he wasn't away on a business trip, he would be back. He probably went out for a beer with his buddies from work and planned to ride home. It would be a good to have the house to myself for a couple hours. I let myself into the house and went straight upstairs to my bedroom on the second floor. It was a long drive and I was tired. I flicked on the lights and dumped my duffel bag with clothing for the weekend on my bed. Then I flopped down on the mattress and shut my eyes. I must have drifted off to sleep because the next thing I knew, I could hear the lock turning in the front door. I yawned and sat up in bed. Rubbing my eyes together, my father was finally home. I could hear. Don't tell me he went, child, hold on. And another familiar voice. My heart was pounding. I stood up from the bed and walked over to the door, which was slightly ajar. I peeked outside my bedroom at the staircase leading to the front door. My father's voice. Are you sure you don't want to spend the night? No, I really shouldn't. I have to be up early in the morning. Maybe you should just move in here then. God, can you imagine what people would say? She's been dead for almost 2 years, Jeanette. Been long enough. I don't know. Fine, go home. Just let me say goodbye first. I took a step back as I watched my father kiss my mother's sister. I thought he was messing around with Helen. It was exactly what my mom had accused him of that night she killed herself. She offed herself. She said she was fooling around with her sister. She screamed at him at all his business trips were excuses to cheat. At the time, I thought she was imagining things. My dad would never do anything like that. I was wrong. He was kissing Aunt enough that he could probably taste her breakfast. He had no idea I was watching. He tortured my mother. She already had a tenuous grip on reality, and he made it worse. She was always paranoid about losing him, and now I could see why. And he didn't care that she took it out on me. He just let it all happen. His secret life was too important to him. Oh, I'm sorry. They've been writing on Instagram. I ain't even see. See, that's why the comments don't scroll on Instagram. He said good night to Jeanette and she took off in her white Toyota. I never said a word. I couldn't have, even if I wanted to. I felt too sick to talk. I slid on the second floor as my dad went into the kitchen. I could hear him pouring himself a drink. He turned on the news and watched for a while. I was dimly aware of his newscasters talking. A child disappeared from a playground downtown. The town elections will be held this week. The forecast is calling for rain tomorrow. It was nearly an hour later when he finally started up the stairs to the second floor. I hadn't budged in all that time. It was only when he got to the top that he saw me standing there. Jesus Christ! He clutched his chest. I didn't see you there. What the H are you doing here? You were kissing Aunt Jeanette, I said. His eyes widened. You saw that? I nodded. He rubbed at the back of his neck. Look, sport, don't call me that. Look, I'm sorry, he frowned. It's complicated. I wish you could understand. Complicated, I repeated. What's so complicated? I needed you when I was a kid and you were off messing around with other women. My mom's sister, for Christ's sakes. No wonder she went and lost her mind. Oh, you think it was all my fault? He lifted his eyebrows. You better own the role. Half the arguments we had were about because of you and your behavior. You think it was easy having a kid like you, always getting into fights? We had to move around. You guys the eye out of the McCormick kid. I swallowed. Remember the day Brian McCormick teased me about my shaved head and my cooties. I had been so angry I wanted to hurt him badly. That was an accident. BS, he sneered at me. That poor kid lost his eye because of you. That was no accident. I bit the inside of my cheek until I tasted blood. It reminded me of the blood that had